I'm Hannah Moore, CFP, a practicing financial planner and educator. I'm on a mission to change the way people think and talk about money. Let's get started. One of the best parts of my job is that I get to see inside so many people's personal finances, inside their financial picture, what this looks like. And I get to see people who really navigate change beautifully and people who really struggle with that. And so I had a client who made a transition into a retirement community. Now, this can be a great transition, as my client showed me this, but it can also be a huge struggle for people of making these changes or these transitions. And so I actually went to this client and asked her if she would be open to me just coming over and just asking what made her experience different than what I had seen with so many other people making this transition. And really what I saw was she was really intentional about this decision. She was really, really thoughtful. There's a lot that people give up when they make these big moves. But she did go through all those experiences, but there was also this ease, this joy in her making this transition. And so I went over to her house and basically interviewed her for an hour and a half. I mean, seriously, sometimes I think I have the best job. But one of the things that she said to me that I haven't been able to shake is this idea that she wanted to stay grounded in her reality. And I see this over and over again with the people that I work with of how important it is that we stay grounded in our financial reality, right? Okay, so let me give you guys a story. So my husband and I, we have 2 little girls right now. We have another one on the way, but for our oldest, I forget even which birthday. She's 3.5 right now. But we were so excited that we wanted to go buy her a bike for her birthday. And so we went and bought her this bike and we were like giddy, right? Like we were like, oh my God, like we're going to have like this moment of giving our daughter this bike. And we had it there. We gave it to her. We were so excited. And she was just kind of like, okay, cool. And like has never rode it, not even once, like didn't even try. And what I realized after doing that is that she's not to that point yet. She's not developmentally there to where a bike would be the best present for her. We were so excited to get to the next stage with her that we weren't appreciating the stage that she was in right now. And so for me as a parent, that certainly has stood out to me as something of being like, okay, I want to stay where my kids are right now. Obviously I want to push them and, all of those things, but I want to enjoy the stage that she's in right now instead of trying to push her to that next stage because it's something that I'm really excited about. Now, in the many clients that I've worked with over the years, I see this over and over again of how do you stay in the stage where you are right now instead of striving for what's next? Right? Again, how do you stay grounded in the reality of your personal financial situation? And this isn't easy to do, right? There's so many expectations and assumptions that come around money. In fact, I think it's everywhere, right? We look at some of the dangers of not doing this. We've heard these stories often of, the sudden money events, right? Where athletes get paid, huge dollar amounts and then they find themselves bankrupt or financially struggling later on. We see this oftentimes with inheritances of people who get this money and then all of a sudden they look around and like, wait a minute, where did all this money go? We have all of these stories and these examples around this, the lottery winners, people who won the lottery and then go bankrupt. And a lot of this is because there's not this clear idea of what is their reality and what does this look like. So let me give you an example. One of the things that I find, when we think about this is how does a millionaire live, right? What does that look like? What does their life look like? Now, if you're listening to this and you are a millionaire, you probably have a good idea of what this looks like. And of course, again, there's a huge spectrum of what this looks like. But the vast majority of people who maybe have $1 million or $2 million or $3 million, their lives probably don't look a lot different than you or I. There's a lot of contentment, right? There's a lot of knowing how much is enough. It's one of the biggest secrets right there is knowing how much is enough. They may not have had a big extravagant, salary that they were living on. They were able just to save, regularly. They still often budget or know how much money they're spending. But when you get money, like if you were to get $1 million, how do you live as a millionaire? Right? So often people think that it means buying a bigger house or that it means, having extravagant vacations, or it means that you buy the new car, or you do whatever it could be. And in reality, that's just not the way that millionaires live. Oftentimes, there's a book that came out, The Millionaire Next Door, that really tried to shatter this idea of millionaires living high on the hog, but really living this extravagant lifestyle. And so many of them just built in habits of around their financial lives, and then wake up one day and they're like, oh my gosh, we're millionaires. Like, what? Well, how did that happen? And they don't necessarily change their lifestyle when they get to that point. And so I think it's this idea of being grounded in the reality of what is actually your situation. Another example I see oftentimes is students graduating college, right? Depending on their background. Again, I've seen a lot of examples on this. But I know when I graduated, I thought, okay, well, I'm earning a professional salary. I think it was like $38,000 a year was what my first salary was when I graduated. And that money just went really fast. It went really fast living in a bigger city, having all of the costs that I had. It was so much more than I had been earning before. But really, when we think about this idea of being grounded in your reality, the number one key is knowing where you stand. It's knowing what your true financial picture is today, right? It's knowing, okay, what do I actually have in the bank? Having a clear idea of your net worth, right? How much money is it that you actually have? Knowing what your income is, knowing what your expenses are. Are you in a position where you are spending more than you're making? I work with people who get into credit card debt, who've gotten themselves into credit card debt because they thought that they were in a different position than they actually were. Or they were holding out hope that that they would get that big promotion, that they would be able to sell the business, that they would be able to do whatever it is that will cause a windfall later on. And perhaps they're right. Perhaps that does happen. But it's incredibly important that we stay grounded in what our reality is today. And what are the decisions that we're making, and understanding the reality that it creates, right? So one of the things I have, I work with some very successful people who, have six-figure jobs or multiple six-figure jobs, and they have kids, right? And their kids are going to school to be a social worker, to be a teacher. And those are incredible careers for people to go down. But oftentimes the lifestyle that a teacher has versus somebody who's an attorney who's making, multiple six figures, it's a different lifestyle. And neither one is better than the other. I'll for sure agree on that. Neither one is better than the other, but there are different realities. And so one of the things I encourage my clients who maybe are earning more is to have this conversation with their kids of helping them understand of how the reality is going to be different. Again, it's not a bad different, but it is a difference. And if their expectation is that they're going to be going on vacations or, living in, the really, really nice neighborhood in town and driving brand new cars, that's not necessarily the reality. Now, it can be. I certainly have teacher clients who've done very, very well for themselves. But it's being really honest about, what is the situation that you're walking into? Because the more that we can be honest about our situation, it's going to prevent us from getting in over our head. And that's going to be the piece of this that I think that is really, really key. I'd much rather see somebody who, these things take time. It takes time to build wealth. It takes time to get, financially stable, to be on solid ground. It takes time to do all of these things. But the more that you're grounded in your own reality of making sure, the basics, clarity on what your financial situation is, making sure that you're not spending more than you're making in general, I have seen some exceptions to that, but making sure that you have these core pieces is going to set you up for success, because we don't know what the future holds, right? Like, we don't know, and we want to be putting ourselves in a position to where we're going to be able to maximize our life, every stage of the way. Just like my daughter, like, she's not ready to ride a bike right now, but she will, and when she is at that point, it's going to be so much fun. But she's at another place right now, and there's so much joy in this place. Again, I have clients who are in their 60s. They come to me and they have wealth, and they're just like, we don't know how this happened. We remember when we were in our 20s and 30s and struggling with children and didn't know we didn't know how we were going to make it. But they kept investing in their retirement accounts. but they don't look back on those years with regret. They look back at those years at the joy that it brought them, and them owning that time of their life and embracing it for what it was. There can be, and I know if you're really struggling right now, like I understand that there's like a scale on this, right? Like there is some that's just really, really hard. But there's also a place where we can, this is my whole premise of what it means to live wealthy now, of making sure that no matter what stage we are in our life, that we're not letting our money drive us. We are driving our money. Our life is driving our money, not our money driving our life. But at every stage of their life, there is joy to be had. So whether you're struggling with kids and you're young right now, or you get to a place where you have extra and it's okay to spend extra, right? The most important thing is that you know where you are in your financial life, and that you live for what you have right now, and knowing that your situation will likely change over time. But that's really the essence of this idea of living wealthy now. It's being grounded in your reality, understanding that you might not be at the position to be taking big vacations with your family, but you can still explore the city that you're in. You can still do these things. And so anyway, my hope for you is that you know what your reality is and that you stay grounded in it. Because again, over and over, I've seen it with clients, is the ones who can stay grounded in their reality of their current situations can navigate change so much better, and they're going to position themselves, and they're just going to be happier in life with their money, and there's going to be an ease and a joy that comes with their money, and just the less worry and stress that there is around that. So I hope you guys are able to get clarity of your picture, your financial picture, and get a good sense of what that looks like so that you can stay grounded in your financial reality, and where you are today, knowing that it may not be this way forever, but that there is joy to be had where you are today. It is possible for you to live wealthy now, regardless of what your situation is. Thanks for listening to this episode of Everyday Money with Hannah Moore. If you like what you heard, subscribe and check out livewealthynow.com. We have a lot more resources to help you live wealthy now.